in searching me, the police officer who searched me came up with a joint. I don't know where he wasn't on me.
Right.
He came up with it though after he searched me.
Right.
Look here. Look what I found. So the police officer says, you can either go to jail or eat this marijuana, this joint.
Wow, what'd you do?
Open your mouth. He's open your mouth, boy.
This is a journey.
Let me take you on a journey.
There will still be the journey.
The journey.
New sheriff in town, and his name is
The journey.
Journey.
This thing is bigger than Nino Brown. This is the journey.
The journey.
What is it that moved you?
The journey. The journey. The journey. The journey. The journey.
The Journey Initiative is generously supported by Nike's Black Community Commitment.
Welcome back to another episode of The Journey. I'm your host, Larry Robinson, and today we got another Memphis icon that I'm sure you're gonna love. But before we get to him, we got a quote. Quote goes a little something like this. Challenges are what makes life interesting. Overcoming them is what makes life meaningful. That was by Joshua Marine, a soldier and author. But it says to me that the challenges are what makes life interesting, but it's overcoming them challenges is what makes life have some meaning. And I wanted to know that most of us have had to come through a whole bunch of challenges, and overcoming them is what's made it meaningful. Derek Brassel, straight out of Southside High, former fireman, was a battalion chief, many jobs, but ultimately he loves being a dad, a father, husband, and he's ultimately, from our church, Mississippi Boulevard, a man of God. Yes. Welcome to The Journey, Brother Brassel.
It's my pleasure to be here. Yes, it is. Pleasure to be here.
Glad to have you. Glad
Yes,
to have you. So we're going to start back. Tell us about the early years and the community that young Derek Brassel was raised.
You know, when I think about it, the early years were it was a time, during a time where the stuff you see today, the problems and stuff we see today, there was no trace of that back in the early days. And when I say
Give
that,
me for instance, because I see a lot of the same things.
you know, when I say that, I'm saying that we could play outside
Okay.
all day,
Okay.
not worried. My parents wouldn't worry about us.
Right.
We would just go outside and come back. You did have to be back before the street lights came
Right,
on.
right,
Everybody
right.
knows that.
Right. That was
But-
a universal law.
Yes,
I believe.
but there were no worries. Nobody worried about what would happen to us when we were outside playing. Your parents
Right.
just, they wouldn't even let you back in the house.
Right,
You had
yeah.
to drink water out the water
hose.
garden hose and
Yeah.
everything. So yeah, it was a
That's
time
true.
we had a great time as kids growing up. It was really, man, when I think about back then and today, it is so
Okay,
much
so
difference.
but what was it like for you? Who was in your house?
Well, I had two brothers and
two
eventually
brothers.
a sister.
Older? Older?
One older brother, one younger brother. And
Okay.
my sister, of course,
Okay.
is the baby.
Okay.
So she kind of had everything her way,
Okay.
after she got here. But we, we had a good life as kids, man, and growing up in South Memphis. South Memphis,
You gotta say it right, South.
South.
You gotta put an F on it.
Yeah, right. South Memphis, that's right. And man, we got into trouble from time to time, but
Okay.
nothing serious. We didn't go to jail. We had our run-ins with the police. If I could say that. Nothing serious.
Well,
though.
see now, being that you were elder at the church, I would have never thought you had some problems with the police.
Oh yeah, and of course it was never anything that we started.
Okay.
It was, it was the police just thought we were doing something wrong, and of course we had to go through some stuff because of that.
Okay.
But overall, it was a learning experience, I should say. And,
We had a lot of those.
yeah.
But let me ask you this: outside of your parents, who had the biggest impact on young Derek Brassel?
Outside of my parents, I would say that, you mentioned being an Eagle Scout. our scout leader, his name was John D. Walker.
John D. Walker.
Passed years ago.
Okay.
And he had a great influence on my life. Really, that's part of the reason I joined Scouting, is because of him.
Really?
It's the way he led the group. And, I respected him. He had I guess because of him, we had a great impact on what I thought of the Scouts and that whole 9 yards. And so other than my parents during that time, I would say my Scout leader.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All the decisions that you make, and we make a lot of decisions as kids. Was there any decision that you made as a kid that ended up having a lifelong impact for you? Even though you may not have known it at the time, but when you look back, like, man, that was a pivotal decision I made.
That's kind of hard. That's kind of a hard question for me.
Okay.
Because I was one of those types of kids that I didn't really, in my opinion, I didn't really make any bad decisions.
Okay. Okay.
I did make some decisions that I thought were turning points.
Okay.
Where
give us one.
Where when here you have to know my dad. He's passed on from now, but sometimes we'd get in trouble, and my mom was a disciplinary person, but if my dad ever got involved, we knew that we had kind of really messed up.
There's levels to it.
So we made a decision one time to do something that it was bad, and but the way my dad, and he never had to really discipline us because it's the way he said something or the way he looked at us,
right,
or warned us if that ever happens again.
Right.
So we made a decision to do a bad thing, and I'm not going to say exactly what it was.
What was the bad thing, man? You can't be holding out on the people, man.
Thing, but it had to do with a certain level of thievery, I should say. And so after he found out about that, and we had our warning from this day forward, then that was a turning point in my life to know that I'm not going to ever go in that direction again.
Wow.
So from that point on, it was smooth sailing.
Quick, what's your why? Why you get up every day?
I get up every day because I know even today that I have a responsibility.
Right.
To be a certain way, to be at a place.
Right.
To make an impression on those who are looking at me, my kids, my grandkids, even my wife. So I wake up making sure that whatever I do today,
right,
people are looking at me, and it has to be an example set that others can follow after they see me.
Now, you spoke earlier about dealing with law enforcement. What was the time in your life as a young person that you realized, the very first time you really realized you were a person of color, a black man?
And
hold on, real quick. We're gonna be right back on the journey. My brother Brassel's gonna show us and tell us about the time that he realized he was a brother. Stay right there. This is The Journey, KUDZUKIAN Network.
This is a journey.
Let me take you on a journey.
Success in life is not a straight line. There are twists and turns in everyone's life, and the more you know about their story, the more you'll understand the process. KUDZUKIAN Media Group proudly presents The Journey, a show that features successful black men in Memphis telling their stories of their lives and the ups and downs they've encountered on their ultimate road to success. We believe The Journey will encourage young men and help them see that life is a journey. Watch The Journey, hosted by me, Larry Robinson. Brought to you by the KUDZUKIAN Media Group in partnership with the Delta Boulé. Welcome back to The Journey. I'm your host, Larry Robinson, and today we have Memphis icon, Brother Derek Brassel. Derek, you talked about thieving. You talked about getting in trouble. Is there a time in your life, in your relationship with your father or your mom, where you knew you let them down to such a degree that it really stuck with you?
There was an instance many years ago.
Okay.
Of course, we're going to leave people's names out of this.
Okay.
But I got in trouble with a young lady friend where I was believed to have fathered a child with this lady friend. And turns out that I didn't.
Right.
But that incident right there, I saw the hurt in my father. I saw the hurt in my mom when that news came about, and that was really that hurt me when I saw how it affected them.
Right.
So yeah, that was one moment that I
still kind of sticks
it
with you a
still kind
little
of
bit?
sticks. I'm never proud of it, even though it turned out okay.
Right.
After that. But yeah, that moment sticks with me, and it probably will for the rest of my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you talked about a second before the break, we talked about a second about when you realized you was a black person, black man. What was that? What was that moment?
You know, I also mentioned about run-ins with the police.
Right.
That's when I really discovered that there was a difference in me and, let's say, a Caucasian kid.
Right.
Because we went to a football game one night, Crump Stadium, I think it was. I'm not really sure. But leaving the game, coming back to our cars,
Right.
a friend of mine that was walking with us he just reached down and picked up a stick or a pipe or something off the ground, just walking with it. And somewhere from the stadium to the car on that route, police officers saw my friend with the item in his hand. Drew guns. Put that pipe down, boy. Whatever he had, put it down, boy. What are you doing? So that's why the friend of mine hates police with a passion to this day because of that one. So we were kids.
They
drew weapons
kids?
on kids. Put that pipe down, boy. What you doing with that? Not only that, they searched all of us. And after searching me,
Now you guys didn't do nothing.
we didn't do
wrong,
anything.
just
We were
coming
walking
the
from
game?
the stadium to our cars. And searching me, the police officer who searched me came up with a joint. I don't know where he wasn't on me.
Right.
He came up with it though after he searched me.
Right.
Look here. Look what I found. So the police officer says you can either go to jail or eat this marijuana, this joint.
Wow. What'd you do?
Open your mouth. He said, open your mouth, boy. You can eat this or go to jail. So
Guess what?
I ate the marijuana.
Bon appetit.
Chewed it up and swallowed it.
Wow. Talk about an experience. Talk about a harrowing experience. Wow. Man, I don't know how it would. How did that moment affect you? Eating a marijuana joint, knowing that you didn't have nothing to do with it.
I was devastated. I didn't even tell my parents about that because depending on how they would have reacted, whether they wanted to go and down to the police station to do something about it.
Right.
It's their word against mine.
Right.
So my parents never knew about that.
Talk about early PTSD.
Yep, never knew about it.
So let's fast forward a little bit, transition into adulthood. You're starting to work at the fire department. Why the fire department of all jobs to have?
Well, the fire department was a blessing, what I call a blessing job.
Okay, but wait a minute. Before you start there, let's go back. How many jobs had you had since childhood to before you became a fire department? And give us a couple of them.
Let me just say several. One was a job which many young people have experienced, their job at McDonald's.
Right.
I had one of those. I've worked in manufacturing plants, warehouses. I've driven forklifts.
Wow.
Worked I've unloaded and unloaded train cars full to the top.
So your
with
life
items.
has been
So
somewhat
I've done a
all
lot of
over the
stuff.
place.
Seen a lot of stuff.
right.
Before I got to the fire department, I had lots of jobs.
Now, once again, you don't necessarily know where you're going to end up. You just keep moving along in a positive way, and that road straightens out. So now, we get to the fire department. Why the fire department?
That's the blessing part of it, because the way it happened, in my career or in my lifespan of going from job to job. One job that I got laid off from.
Is that a way
Had
of
me
saying
to-
fired?
No, this was the layoff. This was a real layoff.
Okay.
And so between that time, even before then, I had put in or left a card with the fire department because they were taking cards for application procedures that were to come.
Right.
So when I got laid off from a job, that card came to me in the mail. Said, "Oh, you signed this card, to fill out this card that you were interested in being a firefighter. We want you to come to what they called it at that time, a hiring procedure,
Right.
where thousands of people were there. It was the application process.
Right.
So we met at the Coliseum, and there were thousands of people, and it went through. You had to watch a video, whatever.
Right.
And we saw some bad stuff on the video. Of course, that I understand now that they're weeding out a lot of people. That this is the kind of stuff you got to deal with when you become a firefighter. I stayed. And make a long story short, I got through the hiring process, but the blessing part I say is when I got laid off from that job, I started the hiring process, and when I found out that I was hired, that they wanted me to become a firefighter, was the same day that I got laid off. Same day my wife told me that she was pregnant with our first child. All right, I was out of a job. But the same day she told me that, after the hiring process, I got a phone call from the fire department in the evening. It was at like 6 o'clock at night. I didn't know people got offered jobs 6 o'clock at night. But they called me 6 o'clock at night, 6 o'clock, at night. Same day my wife told me that she was pregnant, and I was laid off.
Wow.
That's the blessing. So much so that I quit looking for, and I knew it, I quit looking for additional employment and started preparing myself for the physical or whatever they had to do next
Right.
to become a firefighter.
Look at God.
Because I knew it. There's no way I can explain that to anybody.
Right.
It's just something that you know. You know it.
You had found your
Beyond
space.
the shadow of any doubt. You know it, and you move if you act on it.
Right. Right.
And from that point forward, it had been a blessing my whole entire career,
Okay.
just because of that one act.
Now, you have an amazing wife, wonderful children, and great grandkids. What does fatherhood mean to Derek Brassel?
Well, that's a big one. That's a biggie.
Right.
Fatherhood is all about responsibility. It's all about setting an example. We talked about that before. It's all about making sure that your kids have a better life than what you did.
Say that piece one more time.
Yes, sir. It's making sure that your kids have a better life, better opportunities than you did. That's what fatherhood is about.
What role has Memphis played in your development? First as a father, husband, and then as a former firefighter.
Well, living in Memphis,
Yeah.
I should say has been an advantage, because what I didn't tell you earlier is that for a short time, as when we were kids, we lived in Chicago
Oh, wow.
for a short time. Matter of fact, my
Okay.
younger brother was born in Chicago
Okay.
back in the early 60s.
Okay. Okay.
So we moved in, lived there. When people migrated to the north from the south, remember that period, we migrated to Chicago.
Okay.
But my mom thought it was so corrupt there. She left my dad in Chicago and brought us back. He eventually came back now,
Right.
but she brought us back to Memphis. So that's what Memphis has been. It's been a place where we could settle, a place that wasn't at the time, wasn't so corrupt
Right.
that you could grow up there here in Memphis
Right.
and take advantage of certain things that we couldn't as young kids in Chicago. So that's what Memphis has been. It's really been a growing place for not only me but for my siblings.
Right.
Because it was Memphis and really that's all we know. That's the only place we've lived basically all our lives.
How has Memphis helped you as a father? What role has Memphis played in your development there?
That's a hard question too, because I'm sure if we had lived in a different city, I probably could have made the same contributions to fatherhood, so to speak. But based on how Memphis was at the time and is at the time, there are certain parts of Memphis that you can be proud of,
Right.
and to that effect, I think Memphis has really contributed to my life, because once we made the decision to stay here
Right.
and raise kids in Memphis, we knew based on certain things that we had made the right decision.
Okay. Any regrets? Anything that you would take a mulligan on and do differently?
No, if I could start over, I would do some things differently. But for the most part, Memphis is it. It's where the place that I think we're meant to be.
All right. Greatest success. If you had to line it all up, what would be that number one of your greatest successes?
I think the greatest success that I've had, of course, has been my career with the fire department here in Memphis.
Okay.
I spent a lot of years there, 37 and a half years. And I believe the reputation that I built as a firefighter, as a fire chief, afforded me the opportunity to earn people's respect. And I always try to do that, is to earn respect and not to demand it,
Right.
respect from anybody.
Right.
You have to earn people's respect.
Right.
And I was able to do that through my career on the fire department.
Another word that I'd like to see how it impacts you. Commitment. What does the word commitment mean to you?
Commitment means that you're in it. You're in it to win. You're in it for the long haul. You're committed to something. You are in it. Your mind has been made up. You're committed to it. And commitment means seeing it through to the end.
Okay.
Whatever the end may be, you're committed to it. And you're going to see that through.
And you know, they always say that there's an amazing woman behind every good man. So when I happen to know your wife and know that she is an amazing woman, when did you know that this was the woman that you needed to be committed to?
Funny you should ask that because when I first met my wife, I kind of knew it then.
Okay.
But I just had to make sure that I did the right thing and didn't mess up the opportunity.
We will
that I
mess
had.
up some.
Because if anybody who is married, still in their right mind, would say that when I married my wife, I married up.
Right.
I know I did.
Right.
And if you're honest, you'll say that you did
I know I
too.
married. You know my wife. I know I married up.
Everybody in
Yeah.
your right mind,
Right.
you married a good woman, you married up.
Right. Right.
I'll say that to anybody as long as I can say it.
Now, let's go back just for a second to that little kid in South Memphis. Saturday morning, he's sitting and eating some Frosted Flakes, watching cartoon. He looks up, you walking in the door with a message for him. What would you tell young Derek Brassel in that moment?
I would say to the kid, whatever you want to do, if you can think it, if you can imagine it, you can do just that. There are no limits. The only limits on you is what you put on yourself.
Wow. Wow. All right. Now I'm going to take it from talking to young Derek Brassel to talking to all these young men. You started saying that things aren't like they used to be when we were young. If you could talk to all the young men in Memphis, ages 16 and under, leave them a Brasselism. I need you to tell them right in that camera, what would you say to them that you could leave them with from them listening and viewing this moment?
I'll say to them and anybody, if you can dream something, whatever your dream is, chase your dream. Don't abandon it. If that's your dream, chase it until you catch it.
As we said when we started, challenges are what make life interesting. Overcoming them is what makes life meaningful. Today we learned why Brother Brassel's life is meaningful. And all I can say is we're going to keep bringing them to you. We have such a rich community in Memphis, and we have such rich, amazing men. And what we're trying to do here on The Journey is introduce to you some of those great men so you can have an example of what you can be. Even though you're looking at the final picture, know that through the journey, you see that they done fell down, they done skinned their knees, they done bumped their heads, but yet and still they've kept going. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to give you the fuel to keep going, because that path is going to straighten out. Listen, I'm Larry Robinson. For our guest, Derek Brassel, this is The Journey on the KUDZUKIAN Network. To the next time.
Thank you to our partners at Nike's Black Community Commitment. To hear more incredible stories like this, be sure to download the KUDZUKIAN app from the App Store or Google Play. Or check out the Journey Memphis podcast on all your major podcast providers. Also, check us out on the KUDZUKIAN Network.